5:30 p.m. 2. Clerk, may call the roll.
All right. Councilmember Johnson.
Here.
Councilmember Miller.
Here.
Councilmember Green.
Here.
Councilmember Lush.
Here.
And we did hear from Councilmember Morrison and Henderson this day.
Excused.
Okay, thank you.
Motion to approve the agenda?
Motion by Councilmember Lust to approve the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Green. Which agenda are we approving? Is this the latest version?
So, yeah, the one sitting in front of you that we printed out is latest version. There was an addition to the
For 1 minute.
some of the content for King Island. Doesn't change that they're already on the agenda.
Right, sure. Okay. Just I got 2 in front of me and just wanted to make sure there's not a difference in them because I can't spot a difference. Okay, any further questions on the agenda? Moved and seconded. Call a roll.
Okay, Councilmember Miller.
Yes.
Councilmember Green.
Yes.
Councilmember Lust.
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson.
Yes.
So motion passed.
Thank you. So tonight, the council is sitting to hear appeals at the Board of Equalization. I'd like to keep things rather abbreviated as much as possible. So we could keep comments to a couple of minutes on either side. With suggesting perhaps the appellant could speak first, since obviously we've had a determination made. And so we'll let the appellant go first for 2 minutes, and then the assessor will answer for 2 minutes, and then the council will decide. For folks that have got multiple parcels that are in the same category of a complaint, there's no sense arguing them 3 times or 2 times. Hopefully we can lump those together. And that will become hopefully will be apparent as we take each one. So the first one is for Mr. W. Potter, items A, B, and C.
Mr. Potter's not present.
Mr. Potter is not present. Okay, does he have any comments in the mail?
Only the correspondence that he had between him and the assessor, and so all his appeal comments are in the appeal documents itself.
All right. 2 minutes on Mr. Potter.
For those of you who were here last year, I can't remember who the council was last year, other than Mr. Johnson. Mr. Potter appealed these last year also, alleging that he could not develop his property as he wished because the city would not grant him a zoning reclassification. He again appealed this year with the same argument. I asked city staff, they researched back as far as 2018 and have found no request for a reclassification of zoning since that time. Mr. Potter pointed out in earlier correspondence that he had applied in 2016 and several times thereafter. To the best of my knowledge, he has not applied for a zone reclassification in several years. I think his argument that he could not develop his land is without merit as far as reducing its value. The property does have value, perhaps not the way that he would like to ideally develop it, but it still has value, and the lots are inconsistent in their valuation with the rest of the community. Thank you.
Chair, I'll entertain a motion to approve Mr. Potter's appeal.
So we're making a motion to approve the appeal and then voting on that? Is that
Correct.
the course? I'll make a motion to approve his appeal.
Motion by Councilmember Johnson,
I'll second.
seconded by Councilmember Lust.
So under discussion, Mr. Mayor, is it okay to discuss?
Yes, go ahead, Mark.
Okay, he put on his appeal form, appeal was approved for 2025, see attached. And then the attachment was right here, I guess, right? So they're assessed at, it's kind of hard because we just got these just like 2 minutes ago. Normally we get these in advance so we can study the appeals prior to coming to the meeting. So it's a little bit frustrating to be able to make a determination in a short amount of time, unless I missed them in our emails. But what I see here is that they're assessed at 23.6, and last year he appealed, and according to him, it was approved, and it was at 10.9. Is that correct?
Mr. Potter has 3 parcels.
Mm-hmm.
One, I believe, is valued at 10.9, and the other 2 at 23.6.
Oh, I see. Okay. So he said that was it approved last year for his appeal? Was his appeal approved?
He did prevail last year, and I could not understand why, because I made the same argument last year, that because he has not pursued zoning reclassification, and he can't use that as an argument for a lower value, especially when the valuation of the land is consistent with the immediate area and also with the community as a whole.
Is what's the difference between the one that's at 10.7 and the ones that are at 23.6?
Size.
Size, okay. And other lands in that area are similarly assessed, is what you're
Yes.
saying?
So I had a question. I just want to make sure that I understand correctly. Just taking, I don't know, the second property, for example, we're saying the assessor is saying it's worth 23,600, and are we saying that the owner's estimated value, is that what he's claiming, is it's 21,600?
Yes.
And that's the difference that he's appealing would
Yeah,
be approximately
Yes, so
2,000
essentially, he's asking for a $2,000 reduction
in the assessed
in the assessed
value.
value.
He's not saying it should be 0 because I can't use it. He's just saying it needs to be
Right, right.
downward on a trajectory.
That is correct.
Okay, just so I understand. Thank you.
And another question on the like kind properties, are they in the same zoning status as these properties? As far as, you said, yeah, there were some other like kind properties in the area, and I'm wondering if they're in the same zoning status as what his properties
His
are.
land is zoned as open space, and it's the area down by where he has his gold buying operation. The adjoining land is residential primarily. The valuations are consistent pretty much as far as the square footage evaluation. Yeah, so it is consistent with this type of zone.
So, and again, just so I'm tracking this 100%, at least on 2 of the 3, last year an appeal was granted. And then effectively the same argument was being made, but at least we don't know in a decade ago, but at least in last year, no effort's been made to get this rezoned
No,
since last year's.
No.
Okay.
Are there any further questions? Hearing no further discussion?
I'd like to ask for a clarification on the motion on the table,
Okay,
right? Because he has 3 appeals here.
right?
Is the motion to approve one of the appeals or all 3?
We approve all 3.
And Councilmember Johnson and Councilmember Just are in agreement with that, as they are the ones that first and second. Okay, thank you.
All right. Hearing no further discussion, clerk may call the roll.
Okay, Councilmember Green.
No.
Councilmember Lust.
No.
Councilmember Johnson.
No.
Councilmember Miller.
No.
The appeal is denied. All right, thank you. Next item on the agenda for H&L Nguyen. There are a lot of lots. Are they all in the same category?
yes, these are all residential lots owned by the Boone family.
All right,
It's pronounced win.
Nguyen. All right. Shall we start off with a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve.
Items A through I?
They're all like-kind properties.
That's what
That's what you just indicated.
he just indicated.
Make a motion to approve items A through I for the wins.
All right. Councilmember Johnson with the motion.
I'll second it.
Councilmember Lust with the second. Is there anyone here to speak for the wins? Hearing none, 2 minutes.
These were previously appealed, and at that time, the appellant and I came to an agreement. I recommend denial of all 8 because the numbers are consistent, both with the valuation of the previous appeal and with the small increase we made throughout the community this year as a part of our assessment process. The family or the appellant, I should say, makes no argument as to value, just saying that they don't agree and they don't want to pay more. And I don't make light of that, but not many people want to pay more, but it's one of the realities of life. And that, I'm not trying to be flippant there, but things do escalate. It is uniform with the community. They are not, they haven't been put in any kind of special category or anything of that nature.
Right, so there's a funny information there. You mentioned 8, there's 9 listed.
First, I'm sorry, 9.
Oh, okay, just as long as you meant to include all.
Appeals
Okay,
30 through 39.
all right.
Okay, is there any council discussion?
Just for clarification on the, I think it's the very first one, A, it says on the review and appeal form 001.121.3.30. And on our agenda, it says 001.121.20. Are they the same property or are we supposed to be looking at something different?
Could very well be a typo.
Typo? Okay, so it is a 3-0 then, okay.
Any further questions, discussion? Okay, then clerk may call the roll on the appeal for the win.
Councilmember Lust,
No.
Councilmember Johnson,
No?
Councilmember Miller,
No.
Councilmember Green.
No.
All right, this appeal is also denied. We'll move on to the next item for I. Garefalin. Let's start with a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion,
I go Garoflin's appeal.
all right. Motion by Councilmember Johnson to approve, seconded by
I'll second it.
Councilmember Lust. Is there anyone here to speak for Mr. Garofalin? I see he is not here. All right. Arnie, 2 minutes?
I'm doing a lot of jumping up there. For fear of mispronouncing his name, I'll just refer to the appellant. Your code of ordinances require that each and every year business and personal property owners give file a report of taxable property. This would be all personal other than land and structure. The appellant did not file a return. It was what we call a forced file. The last known value of her property was utilized as the forced file number. In his brief statement there, he says the property was sold to Sheba LLC beginning on the 5th of January, 2026. State statute states that ownership on 1 January of a given year dictates liability. Sheba did not, I don't know if I said or not, did not file a property return either. I made several attempts to contact the appellant. It immediately went to voicemail every time I called. And each time I did leave a message, what it was and what it was about. And I have not heard a word from the appellant since last Friday when I started. So based on that, I'd ask that it be denied.
All right,
Denied.
thank you. Is there any council discussion on the Garofalin appeal?
So on the administrative review and appeal form, we have land column, building column, and total column. Am I understanding this is neither land nor building?
It is, and that's where I scratched out the building number and put first/business property. Your form does not, you don't have a specific form to appeal business or personal property. So I just used your form, crossed out the building part and put in what it was for.
Is there any, this is basically all we have to look at is this right here. Is there any bill of sale or any other documentation that came in that said that everything was sold for $30,000?
I have not seen any such documentation. I can't speak to what staff has seen, but staff generally sends everything to me that they receive. So you have what I have.
Staff says they don't have anything additional.
Has the staff ever heard of Shiva LLC in Nome?
I'm not familiar
Not
with
familiar.
LLC, no.
Okay.
But that's not uncommon. We have businesses coming and going all the time.
Yeah, especially mining, offshore mining companies, no, it's a fishing vessel.
Additional, yeah.
Okay.
Just because it's a fishing vessel is no guarantee that it's not money.
Oh, I see. Good point. If you give me a minute, Mr. Mayor, I'll just look and see if this,
The house is painted blue on this side.
and in these cases where something is sold, it's as of January 1st is what the assessor is saying the value and the ownership is determined as?
Yes, this is what the state statute states, that property liability is of 1 January of a given year. My concern here is there's no documentation of sale nor any type of filing that shows what property was sold and what we began with. And as a sideline, I value about 2,000 boats a year in the Bristol Bay Basin, so I know a little bit about fishing boats.
Dang. Not that you would do anything illegal, just to let you know our attorney is online, just if we ever had a legal question. I apologize for not mentioning that.
Okay, thank you.
And just again to clarify, the 1045 was from a previous year's filing?
The city will have to answer that question because they are the ones that takes care of the assessment at this point in time of personal and business. They used to send me all the returns and I would value them. This year, they did it in-house. So I guess my response would be that, yes, this is a forced file, and I know they didn't file. They asked the court that question, so the city came up with the value probably from the previous agenda property.
All we have is history.
And do we have that history available to us?
Dan, do you want to know, was there any of the backup or history that we based as a staff our assessment on? Because we had to force it, but.
Typically comes from what they declared the port,
Oh, well, they cleared out the port.
because most of that stuff is stored in the port.
Okay, so they look at it too to go, okay, wait a minute, that boat's not worth $2. So is there any documentation though? I mean,
Typically, this is business property.
Yeah.
It is self-declared.
Right.
So unless they change their valuation by submitting a declaration that says it's worth less, we take it for the value that they declared.
So why wouldn't we take it for the 30,000 he's currently declaring?
He missed the appeal deadline.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, just, and also he didn't sell it until January the 5th.
Right, and so, I mean.
January 1st.
And so so it's moot at that
Yes.
point.
Wait a minute, you mean, what are we looking at it for then if you miss the appeal deadline?
Well, maybe
He still owned it.
Maybe he did it on the deadline.
No, because otherwise I would have put an appeal if I went to miss the appeal deadline, and I missed the appeal deadline, so I didn't put
He
an
didn't
appeal.
miss the appeal deadline.
Okay.
But, yeah, it doesn't meet the January 1st rule.
So he gave the 104,500 when he came as a four, when he came in.
I mean, he's owned this for years, and so this isn't the first year that he owned it, and so whatever year that it was first declared, that's what it goes off of.
He declared that amount the first year he was here.
I'll have to see what year it was. I mean, with businesses, it's not uncommon for them to take on more property and offload property, and so from year to year, the amount that they declare can change and depreciate, and it's not an uncommon thing.
So this was probably then the amount from this last declaration.
Yeah, it probably was a forced filing this year because
Right.
he didn't turn in something that says that it was sold before January 1st, and he didn't declare a different value.
So you're saying it's probably that it was that, do we know that what his assessment was the previous year?
With business and personal property, it stays the same unless they declare differently.
Yeah.
The onus is on them to say that they sold it, say that they declare a different value. That's how it's been in the city of Nome, almost as long as I've been here. For business.
Probably much longer.
Yeah, probably.
Oh, you're probably right.
We'll give you that.
And going back to the assessor again with a quick question, where did you get the 104.5 from?
It was on the form,
What form?
on his appeal.
On his appeal, so you had nothing, it's only on his appeal form that you're bringing to us. You had no backup for that appeal.
This is what he.
When this appeal was forwarded to me,
Yeah.
it had a total of 104,500. I
Okay,
took that to mean that was the assessment notice the city issued to the appellant. And he thought his value should be $30,000. However, I had nothing to base it upon. As far as what he actually had, that was 104,500. I mean, I could have looked at all his property, had filed a return, or if Sheba had, and said, well, I think he's overstated, maybe the value should be lower. I had nothing to go on other than what you have before you. You certainly have the latitude as a board to find your own value.
Kind of the mindset not to get lost in the weeds necessarily. I think it would have been up to, correct me if I'm wrong, first time going through this process, had the appellant taken the time to describe why the value changed, that might help guide us. But with just saying, well, I sold it for this, there could be a litany of reasons why it got sold for that dollar amount. And to say that that's the actual value of those items, I just don't know. But if last year's value, we believe, was the 104.5, I'm inclined to, well, anyways, I just don't. Would have been nice if there would have been more information provided, I guess, by the appellant.
All right. Are there-
one more question. Can you tell me what the definition of fair market value is?
What is it? I have a far better response if it was real property. With personal and business, it's difficult. If I have a description, like with fishing vessels, I have about 20 different makes that I have, and a chart that goes from present back to the 70s, and I just come up based on the description. Here I have nothing to go on. And personal business property can really vary in value. It's not kind of stuck like land and structures. More difficult, a lot more, less than arm's transactions, as it were. I'm not accusing anybody of not having an arm's length transaction. It's just more difficult, but generally, the market, the definition would be what this would be reasonably sold for on the open market at 100% of value. Sorry to take the circuitous route.
So if we had done a little bit more, somebody done a little bit more research before it came to us, they could have probably determined whether there was a reasonable sale or not for $30,000. But we don't have that information,
Yeah.
basically, so.
We really don't know what he's valuing at $30,000.
You didn't provide
And as I said,
Well, I know I didn't provide anything, but a lot of times when you're going through these is this all the properties that we have to determine or are we gonna do it tomorrow night and then following night? And
This is all for tonight. There is one more meeting later on this month for Northtown.
okay, so and how many people appealed to begin with?
There were 75 properties, and this is what remains.
So my point is that there's been a lot of work done between the 75 and the thing we're seeing. Why couldn't this have been resolved before coming to us?
Well, if you can't get a hold of the property owner, it's difficult to come to some sort of an understanding.
Okay, so what you're saying is you did make an attempt to do that
Yeah.
and just couldn't get on. Okay, all right,
Yeah, there's the call location here.
very good.
It's very likely Mr.
And it's
Iskander is
documented.
out of
Right,
country.
very good, thank you.
Any further discussion? All right. On the appeal for Mr. Garofalo, clerk may call the roll.
Councilmember Less,
No.
Councilmember Johnson,
No,
Councilmember Green,
No.
Councilmember Miller.
No.
The appeal fails. The next item for appeal from Mr. Simonson. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the appeal.
make a motion to approve the appeal of Mr. Simonson.
Motion to approve by Councilmember Johnson, seconded by Councilmember Lust. All right, the first 2 minutes, we'll hear from the appellant.
I'm going to try to keep it to 2 minutes. Thank you, Mr. Erickson, for your work. I know it's a lot of work and one of those things that are not always fun or appreciated. And so before I start, I appreciate what you do. And we've come to amicable agreements in the years past on the value. However, I'm appealing and we couldn't reach an agreement this year. I know that people are keen to pinching the dollars and looking for personal savings. It's good if you have something to back that up with and not just claim savings because you want to save money. I would be remiss if I didn't state that in this time and age of my short life, I've never been around a time when pinching the dollar is it's on the forefront. I think not just in my life, but everyone's situations. So in 2022, my property, I bought it in 2022, was assessed at $423,900, and that value increased to $483,000 in 2023. My appeal was for some reason not considered that year. 2024, it was again assessed at $483,000, and I appealed, and we came to an agreement. I think we landed at $412,000 because of deficiencies that I listed that year. The following year, we reached another agreement and landed at $416,000, I believe. This year, it came in at $443,800, which is again a significant jump for me. And that affects my mortgage payments, everything baked in. All of a sudden I'm looking at hundreds of dollars more per month to my bank. And again, a dollar is not worth what it was 3 years ago. So my reasons here for disputing the assessment are a couple of things that I've listed before, and I'll mention them again. And roof deterioration, moisture intrusion caused by ventilation issues, aging windows and doors, deteriorating deck and porch structure, foundation movement regarding leveling, failing fencing, and poor heat retention and energy efficiency. Something that has happened, and these are things that I am trying to solve, and all of these things are costly things to address. So I can't take on more than one big project, I think, a year, because it's costly. Additionally, this past year, there are two things that I would like to add to my list here. External obsolescence factors that I don't think was adequately considered. One neighbor adjacent to my property filled in approximately 1 foot of material in his yard, which now causes seasonal meltwater runoff to pool into my backyard and around my foundation piling, saturating the ground. This, of course, negatively impacts drainage, usability of the property, and creates an ongoing maintenance concern. Furthermore, the approved commercial use of the lot across the highway of ours out there in Martinsonville, that was on the table here a few months ago, including allowance of Connex containers being treated as commercial structures and office space or whatever it was decided a Connex is, has materially impacted the residential character and viewscape of my property and others' property that had a beautiful landscape view, and now it's connexes and rusting debris. So what was previously open and a desirable view is now obstructed. This directly impacts the residential appeal and market perception. So this is why I respectfully believe that the current assessment overstates the true fair market value of the property in its present condition. And with that, I thank you for your time, and good luck.
Thanks. Arnie, 2 minutes?
Okay, briefly. Mr. Simonson's property right now has a total assessed value of $443,800. It includes $33,000 for the land, $410,800 for the structure. Mr. Simonson purchased his house in, I believe, May of 2022. I might have the month wrong. Both the deed of trust and the actual sales price exceed the current assessed value. I have three sales, comparable square footage in 2025 at anywhere from $490,000 to $498,000. And one sale at $490,000 for a house built in 2021. In my review of this and what I advised Mr. Simonson as my reason for denial here, or recommending that it be denied, is that he lists several very good deficiencies. I believe that these are recognized in the difference between the purchase price and the current assessed value. Mr. Simonson disagrees, and respectfully, he said, which I thank him for. We do, as a side note, we don't assess fences, so we threw that out the door. But those are the facts in this matter. And what I would say, because I try to be an advocate for the appellants also, is that if you think his argument here is good, that the deficiencies outweigh a fair assessment, then certainly that can be your finding. But it has to be a reasonable determination. And I think I've said enough. I pointed out sales price, or purchase price, pointed out the deficiency, the current valuation, and some comparable sales. So I will leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion?
I'm just trying to follow what we're looking at here. Trying to find where is it that Mr. Simonson thinks he should be at?
Oh, it's right on the front page of his appeal. That would be.
Oh, it's up on the TV.
380,000
Sorry.
for the structure, a total of 410.
Aha. I found it. It was on the back of Mr. Garofal's thing. Okay. And what is this page right here?
Part of the property code.
Part of the property card?
Mhm.
And what does that reflect?
Property card is what, part of what measures into, it's the assessing tool that's used by our assessors.
So the property card says total. Okay. $410,800, which adds up to the building costs on here.
Right, so this is
Okay.
page one of the property card right here.
Okay.
And so it shows the square footage, shows previous valuation amounts of land and building and total. And then you were looking at page 2, which is this page.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, for what it's worth, I appreciate that there is a coherent explanation of why there's a disagreement. And I think some of the property conditions that are described might not be plain to meet the eye, so to have a better understanding of what those are. And I do also, the concern about the property value assessment with adjacent properties definitely rings home to me. We're talking about a approximately $33,000 reduction. That's where the disagreement is at. Does that sound right? Going from 443 down to 410?
33.8.
That is, yeah, his opinion of that.
Got it.
And the 2025 value of 416,200 was, how did that number come about? Was it an appealed agreement, or where does that number come from?
No, yes, that was an appeal resolution last year. And the reason for the increase this year, if you like, is that we raised land throughout the community 2%, and the residential improvements 7%. This is why values increased this year. Again, this was done throughout the whole Nome community, not just isolated neighborhoods.
If there's no further discussion, we can.
I'm sorry, I guess I have a question for, as I go through this for the first time, our options are grant the appeal, deny the appeal, or can we don't come up with our own, like we've got this 415 number from last year. Is
Is your question whether we can make?
can we make a
to
recommendation?
Go lower or higher or
Right.
whatever?
Because it seems strange to me that to the untrained eye, we would go less than last year's, even if it stayed the same, plus the increase in the value of the land or something seems like some sort of reasonable compromise. I just don't know if that's an option on the table or not. Seems like a sketchy
Well,
road to get going
currently
down.
We got the attorney online. You want the attorney? I'm sorry.
Currently, the motion for us is to approve or deny the appeal. There may be other options for motions, but currently we got this motion that we're currently discussing.
Yeah, can we amend it?
Potential amendments, we'll have to ask Mr. Lawyer.
If we're painfully attorney to be online, we might as well use
I say use him.
Sure.
That'd be helpful, I think.
Yeah.
I think it'd be helpful. too.
Charles, can you hear the discussion?
Although I was reviewing some other materials, so if you would like to repeat the question, I think it's a procedural question about a motion that's on the floor, but.
Yeah, so we have a question about, rather than just approving or denying the appeal as it is, can we modify some of the conditions, such as lowering the amount of the assessment?
Yes, so, strictly speaking, whoever made, the motion could withdraw it, and then you could have a motion to grant the appeal in part, I guess is the way I would state it. And then what you would do is, state what the board is determined should be the valuation. Does that make sense?
It certainly does. Does that answer everyone's question?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So you
Well, I
may
guess the question is, I mean,
either amend it to modify the evaluation to a different number,
right.
and we can discuss that amendment.
I would make the motion to amend the amount. Do I need to say what?
To something.
To last year's assessed value plus whatever the land increase was for this year, to take into consideration the land increase portion of it. I need a calculator to know what the land increase was year over year, but, or we want to just keep it 420? Throw a number out. I mean, that's I guess procedurally, I don't exactly know. I think I would be willing to try to make a compelling argument with what's being described here, that the house itself may not, but the land itself probably continues to retain, even with its drainage issues.
So the one would
We,
stay at 33 and it would go to last year's.
Right, the last year's value of the house,
Or-
keep that the same and just increase the value of whatever the land increase was,
Based on
2%.
From 32 to.
based on whatever the assessed value of the land went up in that area. And I may be getting way off in the weeds here, and if I am, somebody just pointed out to me, having not gone through this before.
The land is already adjusted.
It's already there.
So the land would stay the same, we would just be adjusting the taxable amount to the
So-
assessed value of 2025.
So what Maggie's saying is that the land would be 33,000, the building would be the previous year's assessed value at 380.
Right, correct.
Yeah.
And what does that number come up to be? Who's got their calculator handy? Sorry.
According to here, it's 383.9 for
Can you
the
scroll
improvement.
down one page down,
407,800.
because it shows.
407,800. Well, that is,
Where is it say 407,800?
The difference is 3,000.
okay.
Yeah,
Oh, no, yeah, no, I'm with you, hold on. So it's 380 plus the 33. So
380.
it's if it was
413.
previously 410, then it is 413. Sorry about that.
Okay, it's previously, it wasn't 380, that's the owner's assessed value.
Right, what was it?
Owner's estimated value is 383.9.
83,900 plus 33,000. Sorry, I feel like I'm getting us way off in the weeds here,
So
having buyer's remorse already. So that would be an assessed value of 416,900.
383,900 plus 30.
Yeah.
416,900. You're correct.
Well, for the purposes of discussion, I would make the motion to amend it to 416,900. Or sorry,
You're basically making a motion to amend the current motion
right.
Yes.
to approve the appeal in part.
That would be correct. Thank you for clarifying that and keeping me on the straight and narrow here.
And I will second that amendment.
Okay,
And I would,
by
you
council
did the
member,
land at 33 and then the,
383.9.
that's what it was. Oh, I see, okay.
and I'd welcome anybody telling me that I've got it wrong so I can see the error of my ways. If there's a glaring issue with this.
I'll second.
I think they already took care of first and seconds. So is there any further discussion on the amendment to the motion? Amendment changes the evaluation to,
416,900.
is there any further discussion on the amendment? All right, call the roll on the amendment.
Okay. Councilmember Miller,
Yes,
Councilmember Green,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes?
Councilmember Less.
Yes.
Motion carries. So for the purposes of this next motion, the valuation will be what we just passed, 416,800? 900. Okay. Now on the main motion to approve the appeal. Any further discussion? I call the roll.
Councilmember Green,
Yes.
Councilmember Less,
Yes.
Councilmember Miller,
yes,
Councilmember Johnson.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Motion carries. The appeal is granted for Mr. Simonson. Thank you for being here. All right. Next up will be the appeal from Couchy. Chair will entertain a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve the appeal.
Motion by Councilmember Johnson, seconded by Councilmember Green. Is anyone here to speak for Ms. Couchy? Hearing none. Arnie, you got 2 minutes on this one?
Ms. Counchy appealed last year, and we came to an agreement. The increases this year only, the increases we made across the board, 2% for land, 7% for improvements. Recommended that no change be made. Also, she and her partner, I don't know if their arrangement, but anyway, Couchy/Jackson are also qualifying senior citizens. They're exempt $250,000. The total assessment here is $121,300. Financially, it does not affect them. They still pay zero taxes.
In your discussions with them, did you explain that to them? In your discussions with them, did you explain that to them? What you just stated to us?
Well, I didn't ever get a call back. But I have not had this discussion with her before specifically.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, clerk will call the roll.
Councilmember Johnson,
No?
Councilmember Miller,
Yes.
Councilmember Green,
No.
Councilmember Lust.
No.
Motion fails, the appeal is denied. Next item, Jay Ward. Chair will entertain the motion to approve the appeal for Mr. Ward. Jay Ward.
Make a motion to approve the appeal for Mr. Ward.
Motion by Councilmember Johnson, seconded by
I'll second.
Councilmember Green. Is anyone to speak for Ward? Seeing no one, 2 minutes on this one, Arnie?
This was one where my calls were not returned. By way of history, currently, Mr. Ward is assessed at a total of $300,700. In 2024, he purchased the house at $325,000. He, in his letter of facts, points out several things. These would have been pointed out during the appraisal when he purchased the home. As far as neighborhood factors, how do we quantify that? Where do we, if the person next door is running a junkyard, how do we know specifically and put a dollar amount on the loss of possible sale? In other words, I put my house on the market for $375. If it doesn't sell, is it because of the junkyard next door? And should we put a dollar amount on that? That is something I can't answer. I mean, the question has come up over the years several times. How do you quantify such things as you don't like your neighbors, or you don't like your junk piles, or whatever else? I think in this case, this is a fair assessment. We're $25,000 under his recent purchase of it. I was not able to talk to him. He lives out of town. Right now, we do have the structure depreciated at down to 62% of what we would normally, if this house were new and in good shape, we would have this home at about $426,000. So we have allowed for its physical shape. 1,300 square foot house, as I pointed out, like in 2025 alone, we have pre-documented sales, 490 to 498 for homes in the 1,280 square foot classification. I think it's a fair assessment at this point in time. All right. Thank you. Anyone have any questions?
Just for clarification, I think you mentioned that was purchased for $325,000 recently in 2024. Where is that information?
That came from the assessment office specifically. And I didn't write down the deed of trust. Let me make sure. I didn't write down his deed of trust on here. His deed of trust was for $240,000. So the remainder he had to find. I know an appraisal was done on the property, and this is something that I wanted to discuss with him. Because it's a condition of funding a purchase through a bank or lending institution, you have to have an appraisal done. It has to be an independent appraisal. And I know that an appraisal was done. Do I know what that dollar amount was? No. It could have been in excess of the $325,000 that that the assessment office, Martins and Scholars, who I worked with when I asked them yesterday about it, he said, I've got the data that shows this was purchased in 2024 at $325,000. So I can't show you a specific document because Alaska is a non-disclosure state. So you will see many deeds that have $10 other valuable considerations. You don't have to tell me what you bought it for. You don't have to tell me what you purchased it for, or sold it.
And what was the previous year's? That's right here. 2024, 178.9, 2025, 282. $2025 was not appealed.
This is the first time that I can remember this property being appealed. Governor Martins, when he updates the electronic records, he will list at the bottom any appeals from any kind of change, well, all changes. And then to the left, to the right side and down, it shows you our increases, both in 25 and in 26 for land and residential. And also back in 23, a residential increase of 15%.
Kind of more than that, isn't it? From 24 to 25.
No, at the very bottom there in 2023, you look in the very bottom right-hand column.
15%, but then look at from 24 to 25.
Yeah, that strikes me as being more than 5%. But also, he said that he had a bill of sale
12%.
for 324.
Yeah, but it went from 157.6 to 259.2.
And if you look down there, it says change to average condition. This home was probably assessed at one time at fair quality. And upon re-inspection during one of our field trips, it was elevated from fair quality to average quality in relationship to like structures in the community. In other words, if you had 10 homes of 1,320 square feet, they were all of the same type of construction, you would want to have them all at the same quality construction in relationship to his neighborhood, his quality of his construction is deemed or considered average. It's neither lesser than his neighbor nor more than his neighbors.
It looks like, it sounds like it was maybe assessed undervalued in previous years. Or under assessed maybe. And only increased after it's sold because the markets went up or something. I think it's only part I'm having a little bit of issue with is the knowledge of what it's sold for and how one obtained that. How do you obtain that? You said it was basically, you obtained that from inside your office, what it was sold for, but it's not public knowledge.
No. If it becomes public knowledge when it's a recorded document, and looking through my papers here, I do have the deed of trust of 240. That was recorded, but lending institutions always record any kind of documents of that nature.
Any further comments, questions? All right, hearing none on the appeal for Mr. Ward. Call roll.
Councilmember Johnson,
No?
Councilmember Miller,
No.
Councilmember Green,
No.
Councilmember Lust.
No.
The appeal fails. Thank you. Next appellant is Coeric. Items A and B.
Make a motion to approve items A and B for the Coeric appeal.
We may wish to consider separating these.
Make a motion to, I'll remove my first motion.
Okay,
Make
rescind.
a motion, rescind my first motion. Make a motion to approve the appeal of item A
Okay,
for the Coeric appeal.
Second motion.
motion by Councilmember Johnson to approve the appeal for item A for Coeric, seconded by Councilmember Lust. Is there anyone from Coeric to speak to this? I guess we'll be limited to the documentation provided. Mr. Erickson, you got a couple minutes on this one?
Our attorney is on the line.
Oh, okay. All right. Howdy, Charles. Take it away.
Good evening. I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
Oh, perfect. So we're considering the appeal for the Coeric parcels.
Yes, so starting with the .24 number, so 001161, nope, that's not correct, sorry.
Yeah, we are currently considering that one. So,
Yeah, that one. So, to start off with, this property was granted exemption for 50% of the value, denied for the other 50%. And it's the top floor portion where the use was determined not to qualify for exemption. And so that's sort of what's at issue tonight. The reason, so the use of the top floor is it's administrative offices, executive leadership offices, accounting, legal and HR for the entire Coeric organization. And, so those activities were determined not to be exempt or not to be for charitable or educational purposes. They also serve and benefit Coaric's more commercial activities. My view, I think it's quite clear that the top half of the building is not used exclusively for exempt purposes. Now, on appeal, Coaric argues that they should be able to benefit from the exception to the exclusive use requirement, which the board is familiar with from using the past. And this is the directly incidental and vitally necessary for the exempt use of other specifically identified property. So that's technically, it's an exception to the exclusive use requirement. And while I disagree with Coaric's contentions, it's a much closer call. To me, it's very clear that the top floor is not used exclusively for exempt purposes. So, my recommendation would be that the board should focus on their argument that it is satisfies this exception to the exclusive use requirement. And again, the way that the Alaska Supreme Court has stated that is if the taxpayer establishes that the use of the property is directly incidental to and vitally necessary for the exempt use of other specifically identified property, then it can be exempt. Now, the court also specifically said we will strictly construe this extension. So here, to me, that's really the gravamen of the issue. It's whether that extension applies, not whether it's used exclusively for exempt use. And I do think it's a close call. But the way I see it is that fundamentally, Coaric has not satisfied that burden. And what they argue is that the administrative and executive activities, support their charitable activities. And there's no doubt that it supports them. The question is whether it's directly incidental and vitally necessary for the exempt use of other specifically identified property. And because the court has said that that extension is to be strictly construed, my view is that they haven't satisfied their burden. But again, I think it's a close call. And one of the things that I take to mind is that, the top floor, one, again, I don't view any of it as having use for exempt purposes. It does have use that supports exempt purposes, and it has use that supports non-exempt purposes. And it's the combination of the two. My belief is that narrowly construed, they don't satisfy the requirement of showing that the use of the top floor of the building is directly incidental and vitally necessary for the exempt use of other specifically identified property. But again, it's a close call. If you have any questions, I will do my best to answer them.
Okay, thank you. We'll consider this one before moving on to the next one. Any questions?
I guess I'm a little bit confused. If they are using that space for administrative things, accounting and HR and things, if that's strictly for their administering their exempt purpose, then it is eligible for a tax exemption?
So part of the challenge here is that the Alaska Supreme Court has not really expounded upon this exception, this is vitally necessary, directly incidental and vitally necessary exception. I think that there's two sort of issues with the use of the top floor of the building. One is that it is, I don't think any of it is used for exempt purposes. Now, much of what goes on there supports exempt purposes, but some of what goes on there does not support exempt purposes. So if it were used only for executive and administrative activities that supported only Quark's exempt use of other property, then I would probably find that they satisfy the standard. But because it's mixed with that and, you know, uses that totally don't support exempt activities, my view is that strictly construed, you know, they don't satisfy the standard.
Can you give some examples of what does not support the exempt activities?
Sure. So, you know, they have various programs that are not, you know, I think they have programs that property that's used strictly for those programs would not be exempt because it's not used for exclusively for charitable or nonprofit purposes or charitable or educational purposes. So as examples of those, they have commercial activities relating to Pilgrim Hot Springs. They also have an ownership stake in a for-profit LLC, or two of them, Unituk LLC and Tumit Industries LLC, as well as fundraising activities, which the Alaska Supreme Court has previously determined is not an exempt activity. So the kind of way I would categorize it is they have some more traditional commercial activities and fundraising activities that would not be, you know, exempt activities for the analysis. And then of course they do have lots of activities that are for charitable purposes.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I did actually. But what I'm looking for is where is the assessment and and they're basically, their argument is that they shouldn't be taxed at all, but what is the assessment we're looking at?
So, Dan, is the exemption decision in the packet?
I'm not sure if it is.
Is this a determination of property values or a determination of whether they're exempt or not?
Exemption only, that's correct. So
Okay, that's why
they
we don't
did
have a
not appeal
property.
the valuation. Oh, there you go. So, you know, the document that Dan currently has up on the screen is the sort of written determination for not just this property, but all of the properties for which they saw exemption in 2026.
So is there an assessment for the proposed portion of the second floor that would be taxable
There,
or proposed to be taxable?
yes, so the kind of the decision that was appealed is that exemption was granted for 50% of the value and denied for 50% of the value. What the total assessed value is, I don't know. I believe I have it in my email, but Dan could probably find it quicker.
I see the information now in our packet now.
Had a partial exemption in 2025?
That's correct. I believe it was this slightly less, slightly higher portion was taxable in 2025. because there was a modest use of the first floor that was determined non-exempt. But this year, that use isn't there, so the entire first floor was determined non-exempt. I believe last year, it was granted exemption for 45% of the value and then denied for 55%. The administrative decision at this point is 50% exempt, 50% non-exempt.
So I guess in there, and unfortunately, I don't know that they're here to speak to it necessarily, and I'm assuming that this is their written argument. Oh,
Hi,
Mr. Mayor.
yeah.
I have served on the court board for 20 years, and it sounds like there's some question about the services on the third floor, and I'm happy to answer those if that would be appropriate. I'm currently the co-chair of the court board. Tuma Industries, although Coeric is a 49% owner, they do not have any operational management. That is all managed off-site at another building. They only have people that they elect from their board of directors to serve as the Tuma board of directors. They don't have any oversight over the management or finances for Tuma Industries. For Unatuk LLC, Coeric serves as the co-managing partner along with Bering Straits Native Corporation, and they occupy one office. I'm not sure on the location, but I visited the third floor. Our boardroom is on the third floor. What we have housed up there is our HR, our finance, our administrative team, and our mailroom and mail courier. So that is the offices that are confirmed that I've known about being up there for 20 years. I do not believe the Unatuk staff is located up there, but based on some of the discussion, I just wanted to share that information. Thank you.
In the writing, they talk about how the city has established a clear practice of talking about other examples, like the Nome Community Center, the Nome Preschool, the North and Sound Health Corporation. And then my question then kind of dives into, or my thought kind of dives into, if there are non-exempt activities happening at those locations, the answer isn't necessarily to make Coeric exempt. It would be potentially needing to look back at those other organizations and claw back some exemptions. I mean, there's two ways of dealing with the issue, but it's interesting to me that they point out some other examples of places where they feel things are being administered one way, but I don't know.
Right now, we're still going to court with North and Sound.
Right.
So, part of that, and I certainly understand their argument, part of my response is that these determinations are very specific to the use. Though, to be blunt, I don't rule out that the city of Nome has perhaps been inconsistent. That sometimes happens. On the other hand, if Coeric's concern is consistency, last year, the administrative activities were determined to be not exempt. And, if they are looking for an analogy, then I think the better one is the use that is exactly the same. But, my recommendation would be to not put too much weight, if any, on, what North and Sound, or I'm sorry, what the BOE has done in the past for other landowners or in the past for Coeric. I think that you'd be better served by determining the matter and the information before you. And just a quick point, the helpful person who spoke up on behalf of the board had said that the staff who sort of carry out the work of these LLCs is not in this space. I fully agree. That wasn't the basis of the decision. Similar to the way that the staff for, the Head Start program is not in this space. The point is that the space is used for essentially the oversight and management for all of Coark and all of its activities.
Charles, I'm still not quite following you. I don't understand. So basically, what we've been asked to do is determine whether we should allow the building to be assessed at half the value, 50% as determined as exempt, and the other 50% not as exempt. And I'm still not quite following why we would do that. I don't understand if what I was told was that because of their activity in these other LLCs, which are considered potentially non-exempt activities, that's why we would tax them for 50% of their building. But if those other activities aren't taking place in that building, why would we still give them why would we need to tax them for 50%?
So I understand what you're saying, but I think that you are misstating it. So my view is that none of the activities that are occurring on this floor are qualified for exemption. What it's used for is we'll call it administrative support, very broadly speaking, of different types of activities. Some of them are exempt activities, some of them are commercial activities. And I agree that they're not carrying on sort of the day-to-day work of the commercial activities in this space. They're also not carrying on the day-to-day work activities in this space. So I would look at it as, comparing like with like, that yes, the commercial activities are not carried on here, the oversight of them is. The exempt charitable activities are not carried on here, the oversight of them is. I would put the question before the board, and I might not be entirely helpful, but has Coark established that the use of the top floor is directly incidental to and vitally necessary for the exempt use of other specifically identified property? If you believe that answer is yes, grant exemption for all of it. If you believe that the answer is no, then affirm the decision that it's 50% exempt, 50% taxable. Again, I do think it's a difficult decision. It's a close call.
In 2025, was that actually assessed that way, or was it appealed, or what was the situation for 2025?
So similar to the situation here, except someone correct me if I'm wrong, Devin. No, my strong belief is that they did not appeal last year. That's part of the reason why I would not kind of overly emphasize kind of precedent, so to speak, because there's lots of reasons why someone might not appeal. They might have thought it was wrong, but decided they didn't have the time or that it wasn't worthwhile. So I wouldn't put too much emphasis on that last year it was 55% taxable, 45% exempt, but that is where it stood last year. But
And can I do a
almost positive they didn't appeal.
follow-up question on that is for 2024 and 2023, why is the exempt value 0?
My recollection is they didn't apply for exemption. That the first year that they, at least in recent memory, that Coark applied for exemption for this property was 2025.
Person in charge of it.
We have questions, we'll have that resource.
Do we still have part of the 2 minutes left?
Sure, why
I'm
not?
able to answer any questions you have without taking up 2 minutes if you have questions for me. Or I can
And, you know, would you like me to address you?
Sure.
The formalities.
Yeah, might as well.
Okay. So it sounds like your attorney is saying that the entire upstairs building is not tax exempt. Is that what he's saying?
Correct.
And our appeal is asking for 50%? Our CFO isn't here, I'm sorry. I was eating dinner at Milano's.
I
Charles,
believe there-
clarify the appeal, what the appeal is.
Right, so, as of right now, exemption has been granted for half of the total property, which functionally, the bottom floor was determined to be for exempt use,
Yep.
the top floor not exempt. So 50% so far granted exemption, 50% taxable.
And the application
The
was.
appeal
Go ahead.
is Coaric wants it all to be exempt. And put in other words, they argue that the use of the top floor should also be determined to be exempt.
Okay, so I'm not an expert on tax exemption, but for nonprofit operations generally that require an accounting department, an IT department, meeting space, which is what's up there, if you guys have all been up there. And we also share that meeting space with other nonprofits like the Bering Sea Women's Group that meets there, other entities that need meeting space for nonprofit type services. We have human resources that, you know, when you have a nonprofit staff, you need to be able to hire people, etc. So the space that you need to support your nonprofit activities is taxable? How does it work for, if I were the Boys and Girls Club and I had an accountant and I had an HR person and I had an IT person and they each had an office space, is that office taxable? Because that's what we are basically, just with a different name and a lot more people.
Yeah. So I believe what he's said is that if there is any non-exempt use whatsoever that could be construed as occurring there, that floor would be considered,
50% non-exempt?
well, the floor itself would be considered 100% non-exempt. If there was any
So,
non-exempt activity
if I
going
may-
on there. Go ahead, Charles.
Clarified, that's not, it is kind of convoluted, I readily admit. It's more complicated than that. It is entirely possible to have some use that's not exempt while being entitled to exemption. For example, there's what's referred to as a de minimis exception. Here, I think that Coaric's stronger argument isn't that it is entirely used for exempt activities. I think that's a really weak argument. Their stronger argument is that they satisfy this directly incidental and vitally necessary exception to the exclusive use requirement. And you know, if I thought it was correct, I would agree with them. And if I could point to something saying that showed that they're absolutely positively wrong, I would tell you that. It's not that easy or straightforward. You know, as I said, it's a very close call. From the materials I reviewed, and then, you know, on appeal, my view is that they do not satisfy this standard. Again, it's that Coaric has the burden of establishing that the use of the top floor is directly incidental and vitally necessary for the exempt use of other specifically identified property.
I tell you, we wouldn't function
Yeah.
if we didn't have an IT department. We wouldn't be able to hire staff who work in our Head Start program if we didn't have people advertising, recruiting, vetting them, conducting criminal background checks on them, hiring and training them, which is what our HR folks do. I wouldn't be able to have grants if we didn't have accountants. I mean, I could go on and on. These folks that are up in that floor are critical for the whole rest of the organization.
May I?
Yeah, go ahead, Charles.
Sure. And is that Ms. Peacock speaking?
I'm sorry, I'm Melanie Banky. I'm the president.
Melanie,
I was
okay,
eating
yes,
dinner
yes.
at Milano's.
If-
I'm sorry, I
you
wasn't
could Speak to,
prepared.
if you're able, it might be helpful to the board, how these administrative activities are necessary for the exempt use of other specifically identified properties. So in other words, one of the properties that is exempt is the Head Start building.
Yes.
I don't have a list in front of me of all the, I probably do somewhere, of all the property that has been determined to be exempt. But I think it would be helpful to your argument if you were to connect
The dots?
the administrative use to other specifically identified property that is exempt.
Yes, and thankfully, this board is familiar with our operations for the most part here in Nome. Our Head Start is our largest program, so I'm glad that you selected that program. It operates not just in Nome, but in many villages throughout the region. We employ over 80 employees. Our entire human resources staff is up on that floor, and if it weren't for human resources staff, we wouldn't be able to recruit, help people apply for positions, screen the applicants, get them to the hiring folks, get the hiring packets moving along, maintain employment files, check for TB records, make sure they're CPR certified, all of the things that a human resources department does. IT is also up there. We're pretty computer dependent these days. Our Head Start department requires emails. We have one cook in each location that requires a health and nutrition specialist that puts out the menus, that makes sure that they're nutritionally appropriate. That requires email. That requires a network system that is supported by our IT department. We have a meeting space up there that has Zoom, just like we're meeting here by Zoom. And there's a parent policy committee that meets, and they vet the candidates for hire. Am I connecting the dots pretty well, that the space up there is used by programs that support the entire rest of the nonprofit organization?
Perhaps we could stop here and the council decide if they've got any further questions.
So Charles, you keep referring to program or properties that are non-exempt. Are there any court properties that are non-exempt?
So the, yes, I have them listed by number, which, they have several, residential housing properties that are not exempt. They have a parking lot that's not exempt.
We just bought 3 houses on 5th, and we're remodeling them. The intent is to occupy them with trainees for Head Start, because we're having a hard time recruiting and training Head Start staff. So staff housing, kind of like what Norton Sound is doing. So hopefully eventually those might become, but they're not, they're being remodeled. So that's why they're taxable. We're not currently necessarily using them for so yes, tax us on those. I won't argue about those.
And then two, yeah, you have a 49% stake in two, but they do their own stuff, right?
They own their own property. They're off-site.
They have their administrative staff in the off-site property.
Yeah, we actually, so they're a subsidiary, but we can't pierce the corporate veil, is what it's called. I have nothing to do with their day-to-day operations. I have no oversight over them. They have their own board. They have their own general manager. So none of the oversight of that organization, that for-profit organization, happens up on that floor. Zero. I can't pierce the corporate veil, otherwise our organization becomes liable for anything that might happen wrong with Tumit. The lawyers have made that very clear. So if you have any issues with Tumit, don't call me. Call Aaron. And they pay their own taxes.
Council, any further questions?
I just had one question for the attorney. Is a decision that we make tonight precedent setting if we go one way or another on it this year? There just seems to be a lot of things that are uncertain, and if we go one way this year, does that come back next year if the issue comes up again? Or, because honestly, in my opinion, this seems like something that should be resolved through if there is a PILT or something of some sort or some great agreement between folks. We're not there anywhere close to that. I'm just wondering, if I make a decision tonight, is that going to be held against me next year if that were the case?
Somewhat. So if you're looking at appeals for the same property in successive years, you should reach the same decision unless there are factual differences. And there could be. As an example, the bottom floor of the building, last year, it was determined to be 90% of the bottom floor, so 45% of the property was determined to be exempt. The use changed somewhat, so the determination changed. So if whatever decision you come to, if Quark comes back next year and appeals, you should reach the same decision unless there is some material fact that's different.
If we move programs around, we would let you know in our people.
I kind of agree with Mr. Luss. This is an ideal situation for the city of Nome to work with COERC for potential payment in lieu of taxes. COERC is a substantial community member here, and I know that COERC also understands that it takes plowed roads and things like that for employees to get here, and there may be ways other than this potential gray area of a taxation thing to work together with COERC. But that's not what we're here to decide.
Right.
Any further council comments? Not for me. All right.
Have any questions? Thanks for letting me, and sorry I wasn't prepared. I didn't know this was happening tonight.
This is just the first of the two properties. Please stay.
Oh, okay. Yes, I'll stay.
All right, clerk may call the roll on a motion to grant this appeal.
Okay. Councilmember Green,
Yes.
Councilmember Lust,
No.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Miller,
Yes.
The motion to grant the appeal fails to get the 4 required affirmative votes. So the next item B for COERC is next up on the agenda.
Mr. Mayor, can I make a request for city staff for next year? Is that we don't do back-to-back properties?
That won't happen.
Okay, because it's really hard to keep track of this as it is, and it'd be nice to have the properties.
Sure. We'll take
All
it.
right, thank you.
So,
Okay, I make a motion to grant the appeal of COERC, item number B 001-301.25.
Motion made by Councilmember Johnson to approve the appeal for Kowarik's item B. Is there a second?
A second.
Seconded by Councilmember Miller. All right, so we've been granting 2 minutes to the appellant and 2 minutes to the assessor for Kowarik.
If it would be helpful, Ms. Blanc, you might not be particularly familiar with this particular property yet. I'm sure she'll recognize it if I talk about it. I can give you a quick intro if you like.
Yes, I'm sorry. That would be the better method. Let's let Charles go first, and then that way he'll present the actual question we're trying to answer and help us focus our questions for the appellant when we're out at the stand. Thank you, Charles. Go ahead, please.
Sure. So this is the property that's at 500 Cephala Drive. The exemption was granted as to 91% of the value based on spatial apportionment. It was denied as to 9%, and that was based upon space allocated to the VPSO program. So in effect, the VPSO program was determined to not be an exempt use, and as a result, exemption was denied to 9% of the property's value. Kowarik's appealing that determination. It believes that the VPSO program space should be considered exempt, and therefore the property should be entirely exempt. Do you want me to explain now why the VPSO program space was determined non-exempt, or would you like to hear from Ms. Barnkey first?
I would like to hear from you first.
Go ahead.
Sure. So, there's a couple of reasons why this was determined to not be an exempt use. So the board has said that the hallmark of charity is something done out of goodwill and desire to add to the improvement of the moral, mental, and physical welfare of the public generally. So I assume that the board is familiar with VPSOs generally. Kowarik contracts with the State Department of Public Safety to essentially provide VPSOs in some villages. The reason this is determined to not be exempt, it has a couple of reasons. One is it was determined to be a fee-for-service contract. So, Kowarik is providing a service because the state's paying them to provide it. Now, in the past, the Alaska Supreme Court has said that essentially contracts with the federal government under the Indian Self-Determination and Education Act can still be exempt, even though it kind of follows that same general idea that the federal government is contracting with tribal organizations to provide these services. It did not say that, therefore, it's always exempt, just that it can be exempt, and essentially that the motivation that perhaps is to get the contract revenue is not disqualifying. They haven't said that for contracts with the state. Perhaps one day they will. I don't know. But the other aspect is sort of something I came to by analogy. So it is explicit under Alaska statute that if a municipality owns property in another municipality, it is not exempt. So if, for example, Kotzebue, now I realize this doesn't make a lot of sense, I don't know what happened, but Kotzebue decides the Kotzebue Police Department needs an administrative office in Nome. That would not be exempt. It's explicitly stated by statute that the property would be taxable. And where Kowalik is under contract providing public safety services to VPSOs, it seems inconsistent to me that if it were another municipal government doing that exact same thing, it would be taxable, but because it's being done by a nonprofit corporation, it results in property tax exemption. So those are the reasons why exemption was denied. One, that the actual VPSO activities probably have components that satisfy the sort of definition of charity. I believe that the search and rescue functions probably do. It is much less certain that the criminal law enforcement side would be considered charitable activity. So that's reason one. Reason two is the nature of the fee-for-service contract. And then finally, three, that if it were a municipal police department for another municipality, the property would be taxable. So it's for those three reasons that the activity was determined to be non-exempt, and therefore exemption denied to 9% of the property, which represents the space dedicated to the VPSO program.
All right.
Can you repeat the moral, charitable?
Sure. What is done out of goodwill and a desire to add to the improvement of the moral, mental, and physical welfare of the public generally comes within the meaning of the word charity.
I mean, I would equate what the VPSO program does to what the city of Nome does by providing Nome Police Department services, Nome Volunteer Fire Department services. That's what our VPSOs do. Search and rescue services. So I think they qualify, the program qualifies under that category. Fee for service, we get a grant from the state of Alaska to operate this program. It's not a fee for service. Call it a contract, call it a fee for service. It's a grant. Whatever is unspent at year end is returned to the state. None of it is kept. And it goes back into the state VPSO pot of funding. So I'm not sure where you're getting that this is a fee for service any more than the Child Advocacy Center is, where we serve children who've been sexually abused under a state grant. It's a state grant. Literally, it's a state grant. It is not a fee for service. We're not getting paid for each arrest. We receive a grant from the state to operate the Village Public Safety Officer program, and we operate it. We employ Village Public Safety Officers. They carry out a number of functions, and whatever is not spent at the end of the year is returned to the state.
I think Mark has a question for you.
Charles, is one of the criteria is that they have to have service here in Nome of the nonprofit?
No, that would not be required. So if they were the sort of end benefit of the charitable activity could accrue entirely outside of Nome, and the property could still be exempt.
So that's why I don't understand your analogy of Kotzebue if they chose to have somebody down here that was serving their Kotzebue Police Department. I don't understand that analogy then.
Sure. So the reason I bring up that analogy is to consider, fundamentally the program, the activities look much more to me like government activities than charitable activities. Now, that's not a determining conclusion. There are sort of traditional government activities that could still be considered charitable and exempt.
Can I ask a question? Are you guys taxing state troopers' property?
I'm happy to answer no. And the reason is that because of the state being a superior sovereign, the state does not allow itself to be taxed. Same as the federal government. So, generally when you go down the pecking order in sovereigns, they don't allow themselves to be taxed by the lesser political subdivision. So it doesn't have anything to do with the trooper property being used for law enforcement. It's because it belongs to the state of Alaska.
And again, I believe the state pays a payment in lieu of taxes and works with the city. No? Federal, who does that?
Federal government generally does.
Okay.
State
State does not.
usually does not.
I've never got it.
So the reason I brought up the sort of hypothetical of Kotzebue or anywhere else, having a police department in Nome is because if this same activity were being carried on by another municipal government.
We're not a municipal government, so please stop comparing us to another municipal government. Our VPSOs actually act under the supervision of the state troopers for when they're performing law enforcement duties. When they're carrying out that function, the investigative function is typically under the direction of the state troopers, but they perform a number of other functions. We actually employ one here in Nome that is a roving VPSO and is actually currently occupying one of those homes that we just purchased on Fifth Avenue. There's a lot of nuances to this program. I definitely think it qualifies under the first category. Your second category, we're not providing a fee for service. We're not profiting. This is a state grant. No different than the Child Advocacy Center operates under a state grant. We're not profiting from this. And then your third comparison, we're not a municipality. We're a nonprofit organization providing nonprofit services here in Nome and in the region. And this is one of those services that we provide for the moral, whatever your 4 categories are.
Okay, does the council have any specific questions for either party?
You're not council.
Oh, sorry.
I had used it.
The Board of Equalization.
Board of Equalization, sorry. Okay. Does the board have any further questions?
I will
It's charitable.
just add a comment too that, with the advent of Zoom and remote work and the housing shortage, Cowork has been really fighting tooth and nail to keep as many of our employees home-based here in the region and here in Nome. I know other entities are employing people out of state, out of region. We're trying to buck that trend and keep people here. We don't want to move our headquarters out of Nome. We don't want to start having programs be located off-site. A lot of these jobs could be done remotely, but we're trying to avoid that. But having to come here and argue that these programs even qualify as charitable or worthy of consideration is kind of epic. We are a regional nonprofit organization that the 20 tribes in this region chose to headquarter here in Nome. And we provide a lot of benefit to the region beyond employing a large number of people in this community who pay property taxes and provide a lot of other economic benefit to the community. But the 20 tribes can choose to headquarter wherever they want also, and they are sovereign.
All right, thank you. If council has any further discussion, now's a great time. If not, then on the motion to grant the appeal for Coeric, items B. Clerk may call the roll.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Green,
Yes.
Councilmember Miller,
Yes.
Councilmember Lust.
Yes.
Motion carries. The appeal is granted. The next appellant, King Island Native Community, has 4 parcels. Are these similar enough to be included together?
Make a motion to grant the appeal of King Island Native Communities parcels listed in A, B, C, and D on our agenda.
Motion by
Second.
Board Member Johnson, seconded by Board Member Green, to approve the King Island Community appeal. We'll hear from the appellant who's ready to speak. Thank you.
Good evening, members of the Board of Equalization. My name is Asalik Nichols. For those that don't know me, I'm the Secretary Treasurer for the King Island Native Community. And I'm here tonight to highlight concerns from the King Island Native Community Tribal Council IRA. Today, the city assessor recommended tax assessment for our properties that we own on 6th Avenue as follows. 1201 East 6th, $464,600. 1202 or 1203, 1205, and 1207 East 6th at $464,500. And 1209 East 6th at $315,600. As outlined in the email that we provided earlier today, the city tax assessor Arnie Erickson has stated that the properties that I listed before were not valued at 100%. So he expects the assessments to be valued even higher next year in 2027. He expects improvements to go up to $471,000, $700,000 per structure at 1201, 1203, 1205, and 1207. With Mr. Erickson's estimates, in 2027, each property will be valued at over $513,800. The development of these houses were outlined as affordable housing from day one. King Island Native Community and the Village of Solomon worked together to find a cost-effective housing unit in order to serve our tribal citizens. The cost package for each home was provided to the tax assessor. The 4 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom homes were $197,808, and the 1 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom home purchase package was $98,904. Mr. Erickson disregarded the purchase price with the reasoning, quote, "This does not include all transportation costs to Nome, Alaska, transport to the land parcels that they would be situated on, labor costs for assembly, and utilities installation, to mention a few. Therefore, I am recommending the appeals be denied," quote, end quote. Mr. Erickson was informed the valuation of the home would create a tax liability that would make the home loans impossible for several tribal citizens currently going through the purchase process. It was clarified the purchase price of the home is not a barrier, as KINC and VOS are selling their homes at a price which qualifies tribal members for home loans. Upon receiving the tax assessments, even though the loan amounts were approved, it was discovered the tax liability due to the tax assessments placed by the city then disqualified the applicants for the loans. Mr. Erickson's response was, quote, "I am sure there must be programs available to your organization which could assist with affordability," end quote. KINC has developed 5 lots, 5 houses, and in partnership with VOS found and applied for funding to extend water, sewer, and utilities down East 6th Avenue. This project not only served our joint 7-home project, but also the homes already existing in the area and for future development. An estimated 22 plus properties will be served by this utility extension. KINC has also worked with tribal citizens to meet them at a purchase price in which they would qualify for home loans. Effectively, the city of Nome has not provided any incentive program to lower development costs, nor provided any support for the project, and are now determining a price point at which makes purchase and occupation by local tribal members unfeasible. KINC and VOS do not manage our own housing programs. Both of the tribes are a part of Bering Straits Regional Housing Authority. Neither KINC nor VOS receive any housing-specific federal or state funding. KINC used one-time CARES and ARPA funding to purchase the lots from the city of Nome, fill the lots, purchase the home units, and worked with ANTHC to get the homes hooked up to water and sewer service. There are no other programs, services, or funds the tribe can utilize to assist with affordability. Additionally, it was confirmed via email today that the city will not review or consider senior tax exemption applications after February 1, even if the purchase date is after the deadline and before the first portion of the tax being due July 31. Official tax bills are not set until May of the same year, with the first tax bill being due July 31 and second portion due October 31. Two of our KINC home purchase applicants are senior citizens. KINC was also informed tax exemptions for senior citizens cap at $150,000 and that homeowners, regardless of age, will still be liable for the assessed price set by the city over the identified exemption cap. KINC understands the need to provide reasonable and appropriate tax assessments as the city needs to manage its budgets accordingly, but currently the city has set up and instilled a system that essentially forces tribally enrolled local families into permanent rental situations. The city also does not provide flexibility for first-time home buyers or senior citizen home purchase. Mr. Erickson cited AS 29.45.110A. The assessor shall assess property at its full and true value as of January 1 of the assessed year, as a means to justify his exorbitant assessments. However, that statute does not take into consideration the current housing crisis and the inflated purchase prices of residences in Nome due to limited housing stock. While the city of Nome may see increased buyer and seller prices, I don't think the city would argue the reflection of the increased prices is because it's a seller's market and the stock is limited, and recent home buyers are paying cash over what recent appraisals have identified market value at. In closing, KINC hopes to see the valuation of the 3-bedroom homes at $325,000 and the valuation of the 2-bedroom home at $300,000 to stay true to the project's goal of providing long-term affordable housing options. And with that, is it okay if I have Kirsten Timbers come up and give a background on the project that we were doing together?
I think the 2 minutes.
Okay. Well, since she can't do that, she was going to ask if we could also, if the appeal isn't considered, if a property tax exemption or income-based valuation can be considered. Thank you.
Sorry, man. Yeah, we have how many counselors? 1, 2, 3, 4. Do we allow the 2-minute thing be per parcel to allow other people to speak?
Sure.
Thank you. Yes, Kirsten Timbers, President, Village of Solomon. Thank you. Thank you all for your time this evening. On behalf of the Village of Solomon, we are here to express our concerns regarding the inequitably and excessively high tax assessment applied to our newly constructed affordable housing units. As Asalik mentioned, this was a partnership that we started working on about 6 years ago when we received American Rescue Act funds. And we assumed all the costs to try to make affordable housing available to our membership. Initially, King Islands received tax assessments for the same properties at $500,000, the same exact 3-bedroom homes that the Village of Solomon has. We received the same homes, tax assessment for $300,000 for our 2 3-bedroom homes. Same manufacturer, same contractor, same timelines. We have tribal members moving into all 7 homes just this week. And we did not submit an appeal because we consider the valuation of $300,000 or $325,000, as the Asalik mentioned, to be fair. It's also just important to point out that the development of East 6th Avenue opens up 22 lots to water and sewer. That was an investment that our tribes made at $5.5 million. We continue to have really strong partnership with NJUS. Our tribe is in the process of purchasing a bucket truck for NJUS through grant funds. The city council just approved national citywide MMIP day yesterday. I mean, we're really invested in our community. We really want to continue offering affordable housing. We know that there's a need, but we just aren't able to continue doing it. And we have at least 2 members and I think 3 families who are in the process of moving in that will have to move out because they will not be able to afford the rates with the tax at the high rate. So we really would like for the Board of Equalization to consider something else for our affordable housing program, similar to what's done for Alaska Housing Finance Corporation. They have an exemption for their affordable houses, a payment in lieu of taxes agreement consistent with what Bering Straits Regional Housing Authority has, or an income-based valuation. We have the specifics for each individual. We can share that. We just, we know that it's really hard to build here. We had planned for this project to take 2 years. It took 6. And the amount of money that it cost was exorbitant, but it was worth it. And it'll be very detrimental to any future development if we have to disqualify 3 of our members who are in the process of moving in due to the high taxes. Thank you.
Arnie, what do you got on your side for justifying the,
Comes from the state statute. And that was already presented in 2945 110 alpha. We must assess at true market value. There is nothing in the statutes to allow us to discount that in any way. So we're not ignoring the problem, if it is, well, seems to be a problem. We are doing what we are required to do by state law. Now, one of the things in August of last year, they were issued a building permit for one of these units. The building permit put the cost of construction at $435,834. Currently, we are at $424,500. That's what we consider 90%. Extended out, yes, that would go to $471. But we're talking about next year. Conditions could change. That extension may become mute. The unit value could go down. There's a variety of things. But we're talking about today, right now, when you have a building permit that puts the value at $434,000 and an assessment at $424,500. We seem to be spot on. I cannot ignore the state law. If there were programs available in the state law specifically that you can discount this, then I'm sure we would do it. But we cannot create different classes based on income level. And I can't discount, yes, I was provided the cost of the home packages in Everett, Washington at $198,000. We'll just round that as an easy figure. It does not address transportation costs to Nome, Alaska, transportation from the barges to the sites, site preparation, utility installation, labor to put it all together and make it all work. So yes, and also not presented at $198,000. Could I do that with one unit or do we have to buy several? I'm throwing out variables here. I'm not suggesting anything. But the bottom line is we have to assess at true market value. And as I pointed out in previous appeal, we have, these homes are 1,512 square feet. In 2025 alone, we had 3 sales at 1,280 square feet at anywhere from $490,000 to $498,000. The proof is there that they are worth something. I don't deny the necessity for affordable housing. I've not provided that latitude.
All right, thank you. The council, does the board have any questions?
That's it, none for
Oh.
me.
No questions? Any discussion?
On their appeal form, it says houses similarly built, but with 2 bedrooms was valued at $315,000, land $42,000, improvement $273,600. What's the difference?
I'm glad you brought that up. As I explained to Heather Panea, I hope I pronounced her name correctly.
Diana.
At the time of assessment, the units up on 6th Avenue that we're looking at as appeal tonight were valued at 90% of their projected cost. The other units that have been referenced were at 50% of their estimated full value based on percentages of completion. If you take the square footage of both sides, divide it out by the square feet, take it out to 100%, you would find that they are of equal value when considered complete. And that's the reason why you see a difference in values.
Mhm.
So the properties are currently owned by King Island Native Community. They're being sold to other individuals, is my understanding. So they won't be part of King Island Native Community, their assets. I guess the problem I'm having on one hand is certainly I would happily grant this to try to figure something out, but I worry about like opening up that Pandora's box. If we do it for this, then what are we doing? It seems like these discussions for a lot of things should have happened when the project was first starting out, and now it's at the end and we're in this situation. It just strikes me as very challenging.
There seems to be a significant amount of resources that they pull together to invest into making this all possible. And like they said, 22 other lots are going to be able to be built because of this, and that they are not profiting from or doing anything for. It's going to benefit the city of Nome.
Right.
We're going to get more tax rolls. Before that, nobody wanted to build a house where there's no water and sewer.
Or lots.
Yes.
So in theory, we exempt this year. Where does that put us next year? In the very same exact situation? Where does this buy us time?
I believe it buys us time to figure out something, but
Sorry, and not that it's your job. I know it's a very compelling argument. I like it.
we need more housing here. And if we can do something that would incentivize it or make it something that people want to do, or, I mean, make
Can
it a
we
little
adjust it
easier.
to the assessed value at what they bought it at? Instead of the assessed value like we did earlier in changing the assessed value to what the homes cost, excluding the estimates for transportation and
I think if we
labor.
just didn't approve their appeal, that it would go to the assessed values that they were requesting.
Which
So-
is
so-
which
which
is
would-
actually above what you bought it for.
Right. Okay. Correct.
I had a question for Ms. Kimberly as a follow-up. Did you say that Solomon had a tax assessment which you were not appealing?
Oh yeah, ours was 300,000, and I know he shared. I'll go to the notes for anyone that I don't. I know that he shared that the timelines were different, and that was why. But we've had the same property, the same contractors, the same timelines. Everybody just moved in this week, last week. So I don't know why some were at various stages on January 1. That doesn't make a lot of sense based on what we know in our contracts.
I'm in a meeting, I'll have to call you back.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. On the motion to grant the appeal for the 4 items looking at a native community, clerk may call the roll.
Councilmember Miller,
Yes.
Councilmember Green,
Yes.
Councilmember Lust,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson.
Yes.
Motion carries with 4 affirmative votes. The appeal is granted. Thank you all for your time and attention this evening.
Motion to adjourn.
Granted.